Hey guys, I wanted to make a very basic Maya modeling tutorial. If you're just starting to learn how to model in Maya, then this tutorial is for you. We will model this Kidrobot figure and let's get started. So let's just hide this guy. And I have a scene set up already with image planes. The way you create an image plane is you pick the view you want to create an image plane from. So let's say it's the front view here, and this button here will show you the grid. And what you do is you find the image plane button, which is this guy here, and when you click it, a window will come up, and here you can choose some images. So I have some images that I chose here, and we can pick one. So let's say this one's a little easier to see. Let's pick this guy, and then you just need to position it. You can scale, press R for scale, W is to move, and E is to rotate. And what I'm doing is I'm using the middle mouse button to activate. So if I press W, you can see there's a yellow square around the center. So if I just click outside using the middle mouse button and drag, I can move it. To navigate in Maya, it's very simple. You hold Alt, left click to orbit, Alt and middle click to pan, and Alt right click to zoom. So I already have these set up. I don't have to do it anymore. We just need to set up one for the side as well. So I'm going to provide the scene already set up with the image planes in the description. So just download and you can start working with it. And the other thing you need to do is you need to line up the scale. So if we line up, the easiest way to do it is just to kind of visually do it. You can do it here like this. You can also create a box for yourself if you want. So you can make a polycube like that. Let's bring the grid up. I'm going to move the pivot down to the bottom of this cube. So you just hold D to go into pivot mode. Hold V, that will snap to vertex. And if you grab the green arrow and move it down, it'll snap it to the bottom of the cube. Then to move it, you just press W like this. You hold X and then middle drag, and that's going to snap to a grid point. And you can snap it right down to the middle. So now the cube is at the floor. So let's say I'm scaling. I want to line up to the side view, so I'm going to scale this, and you can see I have the ears lined up there. So if I go from the front, I just want to make sure that my image plane is lined up the same way. Feet at the bottom, ears at the top, and that should be good. All right, so let's start. You want to pick a view that you will model from. So I'm going to start with a front view. I'm going to make a cube. You can look at the hotkeys on the left here. What I'm doing, if I'm going too fast, just look there. But basically, I'm going to move it up. So I'm going to grab the green arrow, move this up like this, scale, and then scale this way. And I'm going to press 3. That's going to give me a subdivision preview. By the way, the reason my view looks like this is because I clicked this button, which is X-ray. So if you have X-ray off, your viewport's going to look like this, where you can't see through the object. But if you press this X-ray button, you'll be able to see through it. So you can see the image plane and you can see your object at the same time. It's basically an X-ray. And then I'm using R and then scaling like this and just lining it up as best I can. Now, I'm not going to move it left and right because I want it to be symmetrical. So even though the left side sticks out a little more than the right side, I'm just going to leave it for now. It's fine. Then I'm going to line up from the side view. So if you press 4, you'll see wireframe, but you can see we can't see the edge of our mesh here. So if I press 5, I can see it, but now I can't see the image plane behind. So press X-ray, we'll be able to see it, and just line this up and then scale like this until it's lined up. Okay, now we're going to subdivide it because right now it's still just a cube like this. So I'm pressing 1 to go back to polygon mode. If you press 2, it'll show you the cage of the cube, and then if you press 3, it'll only show you the subdivided mesh. So we can't really do much with this right now, so we're going to subdivide it, and that's the smooth button. It's this button here. It's also under mesh, smooth. And we'll press it once, and then you can see we have divisions here. So I'm gonna, in divisions, you can press select it and type in 2, hit enter. Or another way to do it is to middle drag here. But you have to be careful with divisions because it can get, if the number gets too high, your Maya will crawl to a halt. It'll be too dense. Okay, so this is pretty good. We probably should subdivide it one more time because we want to add this snout that kind of sticks out from the front, and this is not enough geometry to do it. So let's just do that. Just put 3 in here, hit enter. There we go. So if you press 1 now, you can see there's not much change in the subdivision. That's because it's already subdivided pretty heavily. Now the thing that I like to do is I like to clear history as I work. So you can see I have under inputs here, I have some stuff in here. Now this is the poly smooth that we did, and also the original cube that we made. Now this stuff, if the stack here, the input stack is too long, the history stack, Maya can get slow and can sometimes crash. So I just like to delete history as I go, and the hotkey for that is Shift-Alt-D. Okay, so you can see that's history is gone, but we have also some transformations here. It's always, well, in this case it's a good idea to reset these. So when you have the object selected, you can go to modify and click freeze transformations, and that's going to just reset everything here like this. Then from the front we need to figure out how to make the snout area. So if we go, that's from the side, from the front, there's a gentle curve here. So the way I like to work is I like to create guides for myself out of curves. So you can wing it also, but I like to just be a little more precise. So I'm going to go into this shelf here. We were in the poly modeling shelf, but if you select the curves surfaces shelf and select the third button here, which is the EP curve tool, or edit point curve. So I'm going to just make a line. So if I click here and then shift click here, it's going to make a line like that. Press W, that's going to take you into the move tool, and that's going to stop the curve creation, because if you keep clicking you'll just keep making more curves, longer curve. But we just need from point A to point B, so like this, and holding shift so it's a straight line, let go, and then W, and that will finish it. I want to center the pivot here, so I'm going to go to modify and center pivot. That's going to move the manipulator into the center of the curve. Now I want to move it to the center of the grid here, so I'm going to hold X with the move tool selected, and that's going to snap the curve to a grid point like this. I'm just going to move it down here like that, and then in empty space I'm going to right click and click on control vertex. That's going to let me select the vertices that make up this curve, and if we move them down, or sorry, up, you can see we can create a curve, but you see it's really chunky. Just press 3, that will smooth this out. Okay, so select this side and this side. I'm holding shift to add selection like this. If you can scale from the center, and that's going to give you a little more, it'll give us a larger curve. Scaling like this, adjusting, making sure it's good. Alright, that's pretty good. And then we're going to move it forward in Z. Make sure just the curve is selected. So 4 will go to take you to wireframe, and 5 is shaded mode. So press 4, select the curve. You can also select it in the outliner, which is on the left here, and then just click this the Z arrow or the blue arrow and move it out like that. Now if I turn X-ray off, you can see what we just made. It looks like that. So I can make a little more adjustments. I'm going to press scale and just kind of move this down like this. Let's see. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do this. Okay, so that's good. Now I'm going to make a line across, and we're going to basically redirect some of these lines so that they go over the snout. So I'm going to go back to poly modeling and select the multi-cut tool, and I'm going to just so you can do this by selecting each side and kind of going to the other side, but it's not symmetrical. So what you can do also is you can turn symmetry on. Now the way you do this is you hold. So basically, every tool has options. You can double click on the tool. That will bring up the options window. An easier way to do it is to bring up the options marking menu. If you hold Control Shift, right click, you have to first be in the move tool. So just select the move tool here on the left or press W, and then hold Control Shift, right click. That's going to give you the tool options for the move tool. And if we go up to symmetry, I'm going to turn symmetry on, just drag over to it like this. So now symmetry is on, and you can check it. If you click on one side, you can see the other side gets selected. You can see the pre-selection highlighting shows us that we have symmetry on. So now if I select this multi-cut tool and go on this side, so I'm going to start here, I'm going to make a gentle curve, and you can see on the other side it's repeating. And I'm just going to do this like that, and right click, and that's going to end the creation of this edge loop. Now what I can also do is press Q if the manipulator is in the way. So you see how the manipulator is in the way, so if I'm trying to select this edge, I can accidentally click on this instead. So you can press Q, and that's this tool here. That's just going to get you into the select tool, and there's no manipulator there. So I want to select the edge loop above like this, and if I hold Shift and right click, this will give me all of the commands or tools that I can use on this edge. And the one we want for this is the Edit Edge Flow tool. So if you click it, it's going to redo our loop around, but you can see this edge kind of went up and it kind of made this really weird wobble. So I don't want this, so I'm only going to select the edge loops without this edge on either side. So I'm just going to hold Control and drag a selection over it, and that's going to deselect that edge. Then Shift right click, and then click Edit Edge Flow again. To undo is Control Z, and you can see this is nice and smooth now. And we can do the same on the one above as well. Shift right click, Edit Edge Flow. And so what we did is we just kind of redirected this. So we have a way, we have basically a shape here that we can pull out for the snout. Now we need to also remove this edge. So we need to delete this edge. The way you do this is you press Control Delete. That's going to delete the edge and the vertices that remain. So the reason you want to do Control Delete is because if you do regular delete, it will leave the vertices. So Control Delete will also get rid of those vertices. And now we need to use the same Edit Edge Flow command that we used before. Shift right click, Edit Edge Flow. It's going to move that up. Same here. Now to redo the same command that you just did, you can press G like that, and that's going to just redo it. Okay. So now you can see we just kind of moved the loops around like that, and we still have curvature. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to push out these loops to create the shape. And one way to do it is to use a lattice. So I like using lattices a lot. I use them when I work all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select basically the bottom of the head here like this, and you can make a selection like this. Hold Shift, first select a face, then Shift, double click a face next to it. It's going to make a loop, and then if I hold Control Shift, I can add to this the bottom as well. It just makes it a little easier to select like that. And then we're going to go into the form and open up the options for lattice. When you see a box, this little checkbox next to a tool, that's going to open the options. And then we're going to change the settings here. For divisions, I'm going to put 2, 2, and 2. Like that. So 2, 2, 2. And here we're going to put 30 for the local divisions. And that's the actual like fall off amount. And hit apply. So we get this box. And if I just move the box, you can see it's moving those all of the whole bottom. That's not what we want to do. We want to add some divisions to the lattice. So on the right side, we have S divisions. We'll do it like that. 6 there. we'll add 4 T divisions, and here we'll add, yeah, that's good, 5 U divisions. And then if I select just the lattice points here, like this, I think that's what we want. I'm not sure. The reason we select just that, by the way, I have symmetry on, so let's just turn symmetry off. Hold Shift and Control together, right click, symmetry, and turn symmetry off. And then from the side view, if I pull out those points using the move tool, you can see we're pulling out, the vertices are contained inside the lattice there. Okay, so that's almost working. I want to select also one more row up, like this. And there we go. So if I select the head and press 3, it'll give me an estimation of what I'm doing, basically what it is that what the subdivided mesh would look like. And then let's see, that looks pretty good from there. You can see we just kind of move this up. If I want, I can select this here just to upturn this a little bit. Maybe move this one up, this over. There. And then if I select the head and I'm happy with the way this looks, just press Shift Alt D. That'll clear history. We can get rid of this, so select the curve to delete it. And you can see we have a nice soft snout that we pulled out. Looks good from the bottom, from the front, like that. Okay, that looks good. Pretty happy with it. Now let's make the ears. I want to make a cube. Move it up here. By the way, when you subdivide something, it kind of shrinks a little bit. So I'm just going to press R and just scale it up a little. Check the side here. Maybe we squish it down just to match this a little better. Okay, and then we just go to Modify, Freeze Transformations. Freeze. There it is. Okay. By the way, I also make hotkeys for like freeze and reset, freeze, and center pivot. And to create those, it's really easy. Go into Windows, Settings, Preferences, Hotkey Editor. And then we'll choose Menu Items, Modify, open up Modify, and then you select the one you want to change. So Reset Transformations, and I set it to Control Shift R. Freeze Transformations, I set it to Control Shift F, and Center Pivot, I set it to Control Shift C, and then just click Save. And that's it. So now if I want to freeze transformations, I can press Control Shift F. Control Shift R will reset transformations, and Control Shift C will center the pivot. Okay. So the ear is basically a cube that if we rotate this way, I'm gonna scale it up. If I press 3, you can see it looks like just a sphere. But if I delete this face here, it's going to do that. So now if I select, if I double click this loop here, just left double click, and then click extrude, which is this button here. I'm going to move it down. Oh, I didn't select the whole thing. Shift double click, extrude, down, and you want to go through the head like that. From the side view, go into match like that. So if you want to move in a specific direction, hold shift and drag in that direction, and it will lock into that direction. So it's taller in this view, and I kind of like it taller, so I'm going to make it that way. I'm going to right click, go to vertex mode, and I'm just going to move these points around to match the shape. Move this down through the head. I want to make sure that the ear is going through the head like this. Then we can scale this up a little, scale this down to make this shape. Okay. So this looks like still a box. So what we need to do is we need to subdivide it. So use smooth like that. It's going to subdivide it, clear history, so that it's nice and clean. Now we need to see if we have enough geometry to connect here. Now the thing is, we could connect this one, but if we want it to be a little cleaner, we should subdivide it one more time. So I'm going to subdivide it one more time, and I'll explain why. Now the thing is, I'm going to show wireframe on shader, which is this button here. The reason you want to subdivide one more time is so that you can see, and so that we have enough connections here to connect. And I'm going to explain. Whenever you connect one object to another, you have to connect all of the edges. And I know that because I subdivided this head from a cube and where this ear is connected, I have, if I go outside of where this is and make a square like this, just selecting edges here. If I go to display, heads up display, and turn on poly count, up here is in the upper left, it's going to show me that I have 16 edges selected. So I have 16 edges selected here. And then if I select the ear here and double click a loop around, this is also 16 edges. So by subdividing this one more time, I got 16 edges here and I have 16 edges here, so I can make that connection. So let's do this. I'm going to select the head and the ear, making sure that they're going through each other. And then I'm going to go into Mesh, Booleans, and click Union. And that's going to create a union connection here between the two objects. Now it leaves the two original objects there, so you can actually try and move it. But we don't want that. So with the new object that it creates, I want to just press Shift-Alt-D to clear history. And now we need to connect. So I'm going to use a multi-cut tool here. I'm going to go like this. And I'm going to find first points that are edges that are easy to connect, so like this. And if I select this edge, press Ctrl-Delete. That's going to get rid of it. The one that's left, same on this side. Ctrl-Delete. And now we need to make the other connection. So I'm going to use the multi-cut tool here and just go across. Oops, like this. Now you notice what I'm doing is I'm not clicking on the point because it takes longer to click, and it's also sometimes you can miss. It's much easier to click on an edge and drag past the point like this. And I'm just going around. If you mess up, just hit delete. That's going to delete the point you just made. And the loop that I made before, the 16 edge loop, I'm just going around and making those connections. There. So there's not an easier way to do this. You can just delete the loops that are there. But I wanted to do something else. I want to keep this curvature a little bit so that I can do something else with this. Basically, if I just deleted the faces that are there, I can do a bridge, but it's going to make it a little, it's not going to be as full. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, while all these edges are still here, I'm just going to delete them, but not use Control-Delete. I'm just going to use regular delete. And this leaves the vertices. You see how this edge now has this vertex there, so the curvature is kept. It seems like it's minor, but it's going to just add a little bit of this, leave some of this curvature back here, that when I create a loop all the way around, it's going to look cleaner. Okay, and now I'm going to use the multi-cut tool, and I'm just going to manually go around and make a loop. Trying to stay equidistant from the ear connection. It's also an easy thing to do if you just delete all the vertices and then just use a bevel, but this will give us that slight curvature here. And then you can select, just right click, go to vertex, drag a selection over all the vertices here and hit delete. It's going to remove any stray vertices. If we turn off wireframe when shaded, you can see it's already looking pretty good, but see this pinch here? We just need to clean this up a little bit. And because we have this edge loop here, I can just select this here, shift right click and click edit edge flow like that. Same here. Select this edge and this one, and that and that. There. You can see the pinch is gone. It's nice and smooth and clean. And then we can add an extra loop here. So when you see it's a little wobbly like this, you can adjust by just moving this down if you want. It's not that big of a deal. It's not too bad. I'm just using middle mouse button to kind of drag this up. There. And then using the insert edge loop tool, which is under mesh tools, insert edge loop tool, I'm going to open the options for it. I'm going to reset it to show you some of the options here. So we're going to turn off fixed squats. We don't need that. If you use relative, what relative does is it gives you a relative edge loop between the two parallel loops. If you use equal, it will stay equal to one of the loops. See, like that. And if you use multiple, it'll just add multiple. We want to use equal, and we want to click and add an edge loop here. There. Okay, so the connection's made. Now we need to mirror this to the side. So first we're going to delete half of the head like this. Clear history. And then I'm going to click Control Shift F, Control Shift R. Those are the hotkeys I made, which is basically resets the transformations, freezes and resets transformations so that the pivot is at the origin. And then I'm going to use the mirror command. I'm going to double click the mirror button, which is here. And mirror axis position, world is fine because we're symmetrical to world. And mirror axis is X. So the red arrow is X. So you can see it's horizontal. So we want to go horizontal in X. And the direction, so the direction that this arrow is pointing is positive. So we want to go in negative, which would be mirror direction minus. So we want to go in minus. And then combine with the original yes. Merge border vertices, yes. Automatic, it's going to automatically find the vertices on the border and connect them. Hit apply. And there it is. Press 3. And you can see the subdivided with both ears. Alright, so the head's done. This is pretty simple. We use some actually advanced techniques like the lattice and Boolean, but overall it's a pretty simple model. In the next tutorial we'll make the body and the arms, so stay tuned for that. I should have that one up tomorrow, and see you guys next time.